my name is Kristen Santarone, and today we're going to talk about the role of nutrition in chronic diseases. According to the CDC, chronic diseases are some of the most commonly seen and costly diseases, but they're also the most preventable. Today we're going to talk about the impact nutrition has on our health, but specifically the role that nutrition plays in preventing these diseases. It's important to educate yourself on different dietary patterns so that you can make more informed decisions about what you're eating. As a nutrition major at the University of Florida, I spent the past 4 years learning about how what we eat affects our body. So to begin, we're going to talk about some of the different chronic diseases, and then we're going to talk about what you eat that may increase your risk for these diseases, and then we'll talk about what you might eat to decrease your risk for some of these conditions. So 4 of the 10 most chronic diseases are heavily influenced by nutrition. So Mayo Clinic defines heart disease. We're gonna start by going through these 4, which are some of the most common. So heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes. And we'll talk about what causes them and how many people in the United States are affected by them. So Mayo Clinic defines heart disease as a group of conditions that affect the heart. But we'll talk more specifically about cardiovascular disease, which refers to arteries being narrowed by dietary cholesterol. About 1 in 4 deaths in the U.S. are caused by heart disease, so that makes it the #1 killer in the U.S. The 5th leading cause of death in the U.S. is stroke, and strokes occur when blood clots break free and block blood supply to the brain. And severity of stroke depends on what part of the brain was injured. Next, we'll talk about cancer, which is when abnormal cells divide and grow rapidly, destroying healthy tissue. Cancer is a much more widespread disease because it can affect almost any tissue in the body. The National Cancer Institutes state that lung, breast, prostate, and colorectal cancer are among the most common cancers seen in the U.S. Finally, we'll talk about diabetes. Of the 2 types of diabetes, type 2 diabetes is much more prevalent, and it is caused by uncontrolled high blood sugar due to insulin resistance. The American Diabetics Association says that 9.3% of the population is affected by diabetes. So next we'll talk about what foods can increase your risk for a chronic disease. Chronic diseases have many other causes other than nutritionally related, such as alcohol, smoking, and a sedentary lifestyle. But right now we're just going to talk about food. So fat and salt play a really big role in heart disease, as foods that are high in fat and salt are often found at restaurants and fast food restaurants, and they can contribute to high blood pressure, which puts you at higher risk for a heart attack. The diet that puts you at high risk for heart disease also puts you at high risk for stroke, because they both are caused by narrowing of arteries due to them being clogged by plaque. So moving on to cancer, the media covers a lot about foods that cause cancer, but it's important to know which foods are scientifically proven to cause cancer versus what the media just says causes cancer. So foods that are proven to cause cancer are things like processed meats, fried wheat and potato products, and moldy nut products. And then finally, we'll talk about diabetes, which is the diet and obesity heavily contribute to the prevalence of diabetes. People who tend to eat things that are high in sugar and simple carbohydrates are at much higher risk for developing diabetes. So now that we've talked about what foods increase your risk, let's talk about what foods decrease your risk. So the diet, according to a study done by Kristen Santarone, he states that the best diet for cardiovascular health is one that's high in fiber, complex carbs, and fruits and vegetables. The diet for stroke prevention also follows a very similar outline. So 4 to 5 cups of vegetables and fruits per day, and 2 to 3 servings of fish per week. The goals of these are to reduce dietary cholesterol. So the diet for cancer prevention involves replacing processed foods with more fruits and vegetables, and substituting meat products for other protein foods such as beans or tofu. In addition, it's important to get a wide variety of fruits and vegetables to get as many nutrients as possible. Diabetics and people who have diabetes people who are at risk for diabetes have a very specific diet that they need to follow that's low in carbohydrates and high in healthy fats and proteins. And when carbohydrates are consumed, they need to be complex so that you can minimize blood sugar spikes. So more people than we realize are at high risk for developing a chronic disease. And there are many ways to reduce your risk other than just eating healthy by doing things like starting an exercise program or quitting smoking or reducing how much alcohol you drink. But the first step is to learn more about these diseases and which risks you may have, and that's what we did today. So does anyone have any questions?
Question. So when you said meats that cause cancer, like what kind of meat? Processed meats, like what is that?
So processed meats are things like hot dogs, sausage, bacon, deli meats. They're really common, and it's kind of a misconception. People think that things can be healthy and they're not all the time.
What exactly is the difference between like type 1 and type 2 diabetes? Because you said that this all relates to type 2, right?
Right. So type 1 diabetes is often first discovered in childhood. It's when your pancreas physically doesn't make insulin, I believe. And type 2 is when your body has become resistant to insulin over time due to weight gain and other factors.
Can you explain how complex carbs and another type of carb like differ?
Yeah, sure. So there's things like complex carbs and simple carbs. And simple carbs are things like white bread and pasta, and even things like candy and cookies. And they break down really fast in your body, and it causes your blood sugar to rise really fast and drop really fast. But things like complex carbs, like whole grain bread or like oatmeal and things like that, take longer for your body to process, and so it keeps your blood sugar at a more steady level, which is important for diabetics.
Thanks.
That's it.